We are back with the Casual GM podcast. I'm your host, Drew. And of course, alongside me, as always, my co host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
Just as handsome as ever, Drew. Fresh haircut and everything. I'm handsomer than ever, to be honest.
Yeah, there's a reason I wear a hat. So
I should. So, how about yourself? How was your weekend?
Labor Day weekend was really good. I got to spend time with my nephew Jameson. He'll be 3 in December, so I'm really enjoying spending time with him. I didn't get to spend much time with him during the pandemic, so I missed a year and a half, 2 years of his childhood. So I'm pretty excited to spend whatever time I can with him. Seeing the family was good. Michigan won. They played Colorado State.
They just squeaked by, right?
Squeaked by 51-7. So, or 53-7, something like it was in the 50s. Colorado State, not exactly the Mount Rushmore of opponents, right? So,
right.
It's a non-conference game.
It was a payday for Colorado State, and you know what? Those smaller schools need that sometimes.
There you go. Get a little extra cash in the coffers there. But
yeah,
I've been calling for J.J. McCarthy to be the quarterback of Michigan for a year now, and he played really well. Outplayed Cade McNamara. I think it's his time. If he doesn't get the starting job, I'm worried he'll transfer.
Yeah.
So he'll start this upcoming game at Hawaii when Hawaii comes to Ann Arbor. That's a trip. So I'm looking forward to that.
December.
Oh God. So I've flown from Phoenix to Honolulu before. It's like 5 hours.
That's a trip, yeah.
So like even if you went like LA to Honolulu, it's like 4 hours, I would imagine, something like that. Like they're 3-4 hours from any away game, at a minimum. It just must suck.
Yeah.
So, but who knows? Maybe we'll see Hawaii in the college football playoff someday. Now that we're going to 12 teams.
You know what? The more that they add, the more likely it is.
Yeah, that's right. Once we get to that 108 team playoff, the whole season should just be the playoff.
So one of the things that we talked about, hey, One Pride, yeah, go green, go white.
Yes, go.
It's just one of the things that we kind of talked about, where we kind of start the stream today was just kind of some news and notes. There's not a ton, right? It's the week between the third and final preseason game and week one, which is going to be in a couple days with the Bills and the Rams.
Thursday night football.
It's there's not a ton going on. Some people that got cut off, couldn't make this roster, pop onto another roster, some of those kinds of things. But a lot of those changes end up requiring teams to make additional contract changes. So Jimmy G, right? He restructured.
He did.
So he can stick around in San Francisco one more year.
It's awesome.
Or until they decide to trade him later this year when some team has an injury.
I mean, if I was the 49ers, that would be what I'm looking to do. I have to imagine that it's one of the leading reasons as to why they went and did this restructure, so that they have another opportunity to get rid of him for something.
Yep.
So I can't. I mean, he's a decent quarterback. I just can't imagine that it's good that he. It's just not good for Trey Lance to have Jimmy Garoppolo still on this roster. Like, if he's gone, it's a clear signal. Like, there is no one else. Like, it's like the Spanish conquistadors when they came over to Central America. They burned their ships behind them, right? So that there was no chance that they could go back. It was only way was forward, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of he's a kid, right? He's 23. So Iowa's offense was terrible against South Dakota State, the fighting Jackrabbits. And they go field goal, safety, 7 points. They win 7-3. I almost threw up in my mouth when I saw the way that the scoring went. Oh my God. I mean, I can't wait. I wish we played Iowa next week.
Well, there was another game that wasn't it like 53-50 or 50. There was a team that it was like, I don't know, was it App State?
App State and UNC. They were just throwing haymakers the whole time, man.
Yeah, it's a tale of two different college, styles, I guess, or just.
Iowa's going to have to progress with their mentality. I know, right? That sucks. It must be a bummer. One of my cousin met her husband at Iowa. She grew up in Chicago. They were both at the University of Iowa, and now they are married and live in Chicago. So, but she every once in a while will be like, "Yeah, go Hawkeyes," and I'm like, "No."
The only Hawkeye I'm rooting for is in MCU.
Stop it, Tessa. All right, so.
So other stuff we got Vaitai, right? He got plopped down to the IR, so he's going to be out for the first 4 games.
Yep, Tommy Kramer got promoted. He'll be the right guard next to Sewell, in between Sewell and Ragnow. Here's my overwhelming in-depth response to Vaitai going out for 4 games. Like, I mean, decent player, that's fine. We're paying him like 10 million bucks, something like that.
Yeah.
To be a guard. He's the 5th best offensive lineman on the team. I think that, I mean, like I was having a discussion with one of the Roar the Lions UK guys today. We both feel like it makes a lot more sense now why they kept 2 guards on the 53 for backup. They probably knew this was going to happen, right? They were probably going to he was going to get like a X-ray or an MRI or something, and they were going to see what the extent was. And like, I don't think that it's been ruled out that he could be out for the season. Like the Lions under this regime have been pretty tight-lipped about injury concerns. And I read something today, I can't remember the source, that said, they're going to reevaluate him in 4 weeks, and it's still possible that he gets moved to season-ending IR, which would be bad,
Yeah. Well, I think the other piece is it gives one of our younger guys a chance to take that step up, get more reps, real reps instead of practice squad reps, and gives us a really clean cut at the end of the season for Vaitai. Get that contract off of our books and keep moving forward with a guy like Logan Stenberg or whoever ends up filling that spot, right?
Yeah, I'm of the attitude that you could go into the mid rounds and just draft a guy to replace the starting right guard. Let me see if I can find Vaitai here.
The trouble though with Vaitai going on IR and us bringing in and I forget who you had mentioned the name. Who was the guy that we brought in?
Tommy Kramer.
Was we ended up going over the cap, so we had to restructure. Decker said, "Hey, I'll take more guaranteed money up front. Throw it to me," and restructured his contract.
Yep. So that freed up some cash as of today. So I actually emailed the guy that runs overthecap.com, and he answered one of my questions on his podcast yesterday, which was, how did the Lions go from having $10 million in cap space before, at an 80-man roster to being over the cap? And he said there was a couple of reasons. Like, some of it is that he doesn't factor in like certain like roster bonuses until those players make the 53.
Gotcha.
So like that would eat up something. And like the other thing is that there for a while, after the new league year starts, like you don't have a practice squad, and so like those guys will make money once they are transitioned to the practice squad. And as let me see if I can figure this out here real quick. So our practice squad costs us $3.7 million.
Interesting. I didn't know the practice squad was a cap hit.
Well, yeah, I believe that it is. So they actually gave Jared Davis a little bit more money to be on the practice squad, apparently, which I thought was awful. But there's you have a 53-man roster. There's all the guys on PUP, the practice squad, dead money, and the NFI list. So like, if you just had 53 guys plus your practice squad with no dead money and no one hurt. I mean, when you bring a guy in to be on the 53 and you have a guy in IR, you're still paying both guys, right?
Yep.
So like, without the restructure of Decker's contract, which was pretty mild from what I mean, you added one void year on the back end of his contract worth $3 million. So I mean, that's not bad, but
they did. I didn't think they added a void year for Decker.
So I thought it was a soft reset, which would have meant there was no void years added, but there was an additional void year added. What effectively it did was it converted his last year of his contract to a void year, and then it took some of his prorated money and converted it into a signing bonus, so that it didn't count against the cap. But he cost us $20 million against the cap next year now. So like, one thing that I think is very scary about the Lions salary cap situation heading into next season is that right now, after the Decker restructure, we have one guy on the team that makes more than $10 million a year, and that is Jared Goff. Any idea how many guys we have on the roster next year, Mike, that are making more than $10 million?
Oh, probably at least 6. I'd say 6.
8.
8, yeah.
So, like...
Yeah, Ragnow is probably on that list.
He is, yeah.
Decker's going to be on that list.
Yep.
Okuda's going to be on that list.
That's 3.
Vaitai.
Yep.
Yeah, he's probably there. Yep. That's 4. Maybe even Hutchinson. I don't know how that works or where he's at.
He gets his contract, his cap hit will go up, but he's only at 8.1 next year.
Okay. Sewell maybe?
Nope.
He's going to be pretty close too.
He's at 6.5 next year.
Okay. Who else we've got on the
Goff?
defense? Oh, Romeo Okwara, obviously.
Romeo Okwara, yep.
What a waste of anyway. Oruwariye?
No. Well, we might re-sign him. And he might get $10 million a year. But what?
Walker?
Tracy Walker goes to 11, yep.
I'm not.
You're doing really good at this. I'm really impressed, actually.
Hawkinson.
Good. It's a good guess, but it's Brockers.
Brockers, okay.
So if you cut Brockers in the 2023 season, you take a $2 million cap hit, you save 10.
Yep.
So if you cut Vaitai, you'll take a 3.5 million cap hit, you'll save 7.75. So like,
and I think those are going to be obvious. They're going to happen, right? Is there?
So I mean,
80% likely.
So I mean, like right now they're sitting at almost $8 million exactly in cap space. So if they needed to make one move, they could make a move. But like, that's not enough money to sign your rookie class next year. Yeah. The cap will go up and then you'd have enough money. But like, you're just going to be, with all the moves they've made, with not re-signing people, with introducing the 2 draft classes under this regime, like you're still right up against it.
Yeah. Well, it's because how bad we were previously, right?
Right.
Was before this.
And people keep saying things like, oh, the rebuild's over. And like, this front office and this coaching staff needs to prove that they can win games. And I'm like, it's not over. Mm-hmm. Your cap's not even right yet. Like, your first draft class this is the first season that they have where the game is slowed down for them. Like I'm actually started to make a list. I've got like 7 items on a list that's like, this is why the rebuild's not done yet.
Yeah.
Like everyone is just being super impatient because they're just so desperate for this team to win games because they just haven't had a lot of it, that they see the opportunity now. And I'm like, bro, we just drafted like 3 players that are hurt. You know, like we didn't know that we were going to get the 5th easiest schedule in the NFL. Like, everyone chill.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like we kind of prepared for this a little bit, although there's a perfect transition because we're talking about Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, and all that kind of stuff. But like, kind of our topic for the day is kind of, I call it Culture Club, right? Because we're going to talk about what the ownership does for the culture of a team and team building, and how they allow or get in the way of proper team building, management, coaching, all of that. And I think the real question for me is, what is different? Like right now, one of the things that we've kind of said is this is a different Lions team, and the question is why? What makes it different? I think part of it is culture, but I think you've got some really good kind of insight on like what you think is different about this Lions rebuild from previous Lions rebuilds.
They care. That's it. It's the number one reason. So like William Clay Ford, Martha Ford, like they're car people. They're not football people, or they're there's plenty of people in professional sports as owners who own a team because the thing appreciates. Like, there's so few things in life that appreciate and value. So just in case anyone doesn't know, like maybe someday there will be kids that listen to this, when something appreciates and value over time, it gets more valuable over time. Most things in life, cars, depreciate and they get less valuable. But like sports franchises, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Rumble.
Although you can't trust those car people. That was good timing. But I always had felt, and this is probably just like me being beaten down as a Lions fan for my whole life, that like the Fords, the previous ownership group, treated the team like a balance sheet item. Like, as long as it was positively affecting their assets for their personal wealth, everything else was fine.
Yeah.
And then then William Clay Ford passed away, and then we had the little emblems on our jersey for that season. Yeah. And Martha Ford was the sole managing owner, I believe, or whatever the term is, for 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. And I thought she did a better job.
Yeah. She took more positive steps on the accountability side.
Yeah.
William Clay Ford's biggest problem, I think, was loyalty, which sounds like, how could that be a problem? Well, it's a problem when you are so loyal to somebody that you ignore their failings and how they're ruining your club. And sticking with them anyway, right? It's when you can't be objective and loyalty gets in the way of that. That's when loyalty becomes a big failing. And that was William Clay's big problem.
I didn't know the guy personally, being 60 years his junior or whatever, 30 years his junior, whatever it was, and having never met him. But like the thing that I was excited about when I heard that the ownership was going to change hands was this is at least an opportunity for change, positive change.
Yeah.
And I don't know Sheila Ford Hamp from someone walking down the street, but the thing that has won me over about Sheila Ford Hamp is that I felt like she went through the GM search and did it the right way. Brought in a bunch of different people.
100%.
Didn't just immediately hire someone that they either knew or had worked with before.
Or came from New England because that's why we want to hire them or whatever.
Right. No nepotism here. She went out and tried to find at least who she thought was the right person for the job, right? So I didn't know who Brad Holmes was. But now when I watch the draft casts, when I see like Hard Knocks, and like I know we haven't seen her much on Hard Knocks, but like I see her in and around the team a lot, having never seen the Fords outside of being in their booth at the stadium.
Yeah.
I love that. That shows me that she is invested and is actively working, hopefully, to make the team better. And
Yeah.
I firmly believe that if you really want to be great, you need continuity, and you need continuity of greatness. And that requires that everyone is pulling in the same direction as a unit to make this franchise better top to bottom. And it starts with her.
Yeah.
And thus far, she's got my faith that this is an ownership group that is different from the last one and is about putting a better team on the field. So I am pro Sheila Ford Hamp. I was not pro William and Martha. So that's one of the reasons like I'm doing this podcast with you as opposed to just doing a Ravens podcast, because I mean, like, I feel like this is different from anything else that I have seen in my 25 years of paying attention to Lions football. So,
yeah, and I think for me, like the big thing, and I think even A6 mentioned something in there, that she has some really good resources in her decision making too. Spielman, for example.
Okay.
And I think the big difference that I've noticed between, I mean, other than the whole, she gives a shit, right? She actually cares. She's in the locker room. She's celebrating with the team. She's in the draft room and, talking with the team or talking with the draftees for more than the welcome to the team that, Martha did. And I don't think I never saw anything from William Clare doing anything like that. So, yeah, she's doing some of that stuff, but I thought one of the really great things that she's done differently than her familial predecessors was she doesn't assume she knows everything and just makes a rash decision. She's like, you know what? I'm going to bring in football people to help me make this decision, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to, when we go to hire our coach and our GM, I want to ask our GMs which coaches they think are good and who they think that they can work with. When I interview our coaches, I want to ask them which GMs, and they hired them essentially at the same time.
It was very close.
Doing interviews for both, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really interesting and unique way of doing that to make sure that when they got the pair, that they're going to work really well together instead of going, well, we think this is a good GM, and gosh, I hope he works with our coach. It was really more of a collaborative decision, bringing guys in like Chris Spielman and Barry Sanders just to get ideas and, having, interviews with those guys. I think that's a totally different plan than what the Fords ever did in the past. And I think that just shows to me that they're going to try to do things the right way instead of their own way, which has never been right.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, I don't even know where I want to go, to be honest, but like, I've heard a lot of fans say you got to take advantage of this season in order to prove that these people know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't know that it's possible that they have another 3-win season unless Jared Goff gets hurt. If Jared Goff were to get hurt, I think a 3-win season would be pretty good, But like, hopefully he's healthy the entire season or the overwhelming majority of it.
Yeah.
But like, the rest of the team is improved. Like we're gonna have, knock on wood, but we're gonna have Decker, Ragnow, and Sewell out there on the offensive line. You've got a number 2 overall pick in Aiden Hutchinson. You've got a 6th round pick in Rodrigo, who looks like they're going to be starters, and therefore we would think quality players. Everybody's got a year in this system. We
have wide receivers.
DJ Chark, adding DJ Chark is great. I hope that we get a lot of run out of him this season, and I hope if they're, I don't know, I'm just hopeful, and like I think that the steps that they've taken are not huge steps, but they're steps in the right direction. And like I think that one of the things that I've taken from Hard Knocks is that they want to take a step, a little one every day, and like you don't have to take too many of those steps before you end up being like, well, we came a really long ways, and like I've said my personal, I don't want to call it an expectation, but I would call it maybe my hope is that the Lions win 6+ games. I would like to go 4-2 in the division, and I would like to win 2 road games. I think that would be progress, and this team growing up together. But we are the youngest roster in the NFL, and we are going to get even younger before this thing is all over because we have another draft class coming up in April.
Yep.
And it's likely that players like Rockers, Vitae, who knows, might have to be cap casualties, and we're going to, overwhelmingly probably replace those with guys who are not the same age as them.
Yeah.
So I think that the team is going to there's going to be a need to mature. And if the cap works out all right, next season, if the cap goes up a lot and the Lions are smart about their money, maybe they can add a veteran here and a veteran there, and it would, work out. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, it's definitely a different feeling. And just I'm catching up in the chat here. A6 Matt Millen did some damage, but Quintricia made a hell of an impact in a few short years. I mean that's really the difference, right, between William Clay Ford and keeping a guy like Matt Millen for a decade of destruction, and Sheila Ford Hamp, the other Ford, Martha.
Yeah, there you go.
Not putting up with that crap, and most enterprises, most companies, they don't mind failure because you learn from failure. But if you're going to fail, you want to fail fast. You want to find out that this is not working very quickly. And the only saving grace of the whole Quintricia era was it was a failed fast. Like we found out really quickly this was not what we want to do, and we got the hell out of there before we lost a second decade. Yeah.
I want to say something. I don't think Bob Quinn did a very bad job, to be honest. Like the worst mistake that Bob Quinn made was hiring Matt Patricia. That was his.
Yeah.
That was the fatal mistake, right? But I think he drafted pretty well, to be honest. I don't know about the free agent signings are kind of eluding me at current, but
his draft classes weren't terrible. I mean, they weren't, A+ or anything, but they also weren't Fs. They were probably
compared to the Millen Mayhew drafts, they're pretty good.
Yeah. They were kind of in that B- range, things that you can take incremental improvements to your team. But yeah, as A6 says, Vitae and Flowers were both his free agency signings.
That's correct.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that was to switch sports. The Red Wings did the same thing. Ken Holland was really good at the whole drafting process, but we did not. When we would do the free agents, that was where we overpaid, and it was kind of a mess.
I think you mean Diggs, right? Quandre Diggs.
Where at?
A6 latest post. Traded away Slay and Quandre Diggs.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say something, and this is not objective. I try and be as objective as I possibly can be. I don't like Darius Slay. All the numbers back up that he is a good corner. All I remember about Darius Slay was that if you put him on a 1, he just got torched. That's all I remember. I don't ever people talk about him passes batted away, and I'm like, yeah, but he went out and got torched by Devontae Adams. or he went out and got torched by like Adam Thielen or, you know, Jordy Nelson or whomever else. Like, that's my memories of Darius Slay. It's like, oh, neat. But like, my problem with like Diggs and Darius Slay was it was like, well, you better pay me. And then the Lions were like, we're not going to pay you. And then they got upset and they ran their mouths in the media. And yeah, they traded him for peanuts to, well, I don't know about a 3 and a 5, you know, like for Slay. I thought that was pretty decent for a player of his caliber, but like, yeah, Diggs or whatever, like Diggs is going to make $15 million next year. Like, good for him. Great. But like, he's still chirping about fucking Detroit. Like, I just didn't like either one of those guys, you know? And like, at some point you have to move on because like, we were terrible.
Yeah.
And like, we were terrible. And if you're going to go and sign a quarterback for like 12, 13, 14 million dollars a year as a number one, whenever he was, like, you're just going to spend that money for a player to play in a bad team.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
even coach that he hates.
Right.
You know, like, bringing it back to the culture club conversation.
Yeah.
Patricia, like his players hated him. Like,
oh yeah,
he turned players against each other, talked shit about them in ways that they did not respond positively to. Clearly, like, I think good leaders know when you can,
how to challenge
how to coach and how to talk to their staff. And he clearly did not. And he alienated a lot of quality players. And that just really downward spiraled throughout the locker room. And I think it was almost exclusively Patricia's fault.
Sure. You know, I'm on board with that idea.
He built that culture of just disease.
Right. So I like the culture that they've built, right? So like when they hired Dan Campbell, my first thought was, what? Who? The tight end guy from the Saints? Like, I didn't know anything about him, you know. I didn't. Yeah. I mean, he played in Detroit for a while. I didn't remember the backup tight end from the 0-16 season. I try not to think about the 0-16 season. But, you know, didn't know anything about him. Certainly wasn't in the meeting, the interview or whatever. So, didn't know Holmes, and like what I saw didn't fill me with a lot of hope. Like, first year head coach, first time GM, a bunch of the coaches on the staff that they brought in are first timers. And like, I was kind of hoping for someone like, and don't rip me, but like a Josh McDaniel or like a Kyle Shanahan, like a Sean McVay type, like Wunderkind, you know, or whatever. Like, it's going to take some like fucking genius in order to get the Detroit Lions schemed up out of this, you know, mire of mediocrity and losing that we've been in for so long. Like, you need to give some up and comer dude a chance and hope that you strike gold so that you could get this out. So I was initially very down on the coaching staff. You know, like, I have rooting for the Ravens has given me an appreciation for in-house culture, you know, and like the thing to me that I would point to if someone was like, well, why, you know, is that like they signed Earl Thomas, right?
Right.
So Earl Thomas, last time we'd seen him, he was getting carted off the field, gives his own sideline the middle finger, pretty classy. And so then like he rehabs, and then the Ravens bring him in because that's kind of a Ravens move. And so like, you know, he plays like a year there or whatever, and then like in year 2, I think it was, and they had signed him to like a 4 or 5 year deal and gave him pretty good money. And like he's getting in fights with like Chuck Clark, one of their reserve safeties who had since become a starter, and like was just a malcontent. And apparently some of the players, like team captains or whatever, went to management and they're like, this guy's not a part of the team. He doesn't represent what this team is about. We don't want him on the team. We want you to get rid of him. And if I was the GM and players came to me and said that, I'd have been like, I'm going to make my own choice. I mean, we just invested in this guy.
Right.
And they cut him. Eric DeCosta cuts him, right? And I'm like, wow, that's some trust, man. Like that impressed me, that management listened to their players like that. And like I get the same vibe seeing the interaction between Holmes and Campbell and the coaching staff, having Sheila in the room, like they're communicating with each other. Like that's one of the keys to success in almost any industry, in almost any group, in almost anything that you do. You have to communicate effectively, and it looks like that they're doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm happy that they are collaborating with one another, because getting that information and weighing your decisions, knowing as many of the variables as possible, is a huge bonus.
Yeah.
So this culture, even if the coaching staff isn't necessarily like the Sean McVay, Kyle Hamilton wunderkinds.
Kyle Shanahan.
What did I say?
Yeah. Kyle Hamilton.
Did I say Kyle Hamilton?
Yeah,
See, these people just
drive me on your mind.
They drive me down. Kyle Shanahan, thank you. If they are those kind of people, you know, then I would want something like this. That's like any team in sports needs blue chip talent with blue collar work ethic.
Yep.
And the coaching staff is bringing that aspect of the blue collar work ethic to the team. So, you know, I'm pretty happy.
Right. It's like that's what the Pistons did in their last championship season. They didn't have a Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant. They had 8 hardworking, very talented, but not superstar, very hardworking guys that are not going to take losing easily, and they just went out and they won.
Yeah, I love that 04 Pistons team. That 04 Pistons team was fantastic. So, you know, and that felt like Detroit to me. I don't live in Detroit. I live on the other side of the state. But like the mentality of Detroit sports has always been tough, grind, go out, bring your lunch pail, kind of a mentality, like the auto workers industry, right? So like here we go, right? And so that Pistons team, bereft of superstars, right? So like, but extremely good, hardworking players, and they went out and they worked hard. And when we played the Lakers and it was the Kobe Shaq Lakers, I was like, I guess Kobe and Shaq.
Right.
That's how is Ben Wallace who holds up well to Shaq? And then they go out and it's just like they just destroy them. So I'm thrilled. And like now, finally, the Lions are starting to feel like the Lions are starting to I'm starting to get that vibe from this team. Like, it's nice that we went out there and worked hard last season. Things didn't go our way, but also the team was bad.
Yeah.
You know, like when like really bad things happen to you, like the ball bounces one way, or you were like a hair's breadth away from getting that sack. The things that turn those negatives into positives is talent. Like someone who's more talented, a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. Those things tend to go away then. And like those negatives turn into positives. And so like, I think that like Sewell is a step forward. I think Hutchinson is a step forward. I think Jamison Williams will be a step forward. Like, you know, and I'm interested in the next draft class that they bring in, and the one after that, and the one after that, because I'm interested to see how they identify players. That's why I like football, is the roster building aspect of it. I don't care to watch it outside of Michigan football, to be honest. But like, I love the like chess piece, move the pieces around, figure out how to win the game kind of part of it. And I think Brad Holmes is doing it. People, like, one of the things that like I hear the fan base complaining about quite a lot is that like we've quote unquote missed on our second round picks. Right. So like Onwuzurike is banged up right now. Pascal's banged up right now. They're not playing. So we've missed, quote unquote, even though we have not missed by any stretch of the imagination. But you know what makes up for that? is you hit on Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th.
Yep.
Like if Malcolm Rodriguez is even
in the 6th.
Yeah. If Malcolm Rodriguez is even just a decent linebacker in the 6th round, that's a hit.
Yeah.
You know, like if you find a starting caliber linebacker who plays like average to a slightly above average football, or who knows what this kid could be.
Yeah.
That's worth, I mean, that's what you're hoping to get out of a 2nd round linebacker.
Yep. As a starter, right?
Right. So, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, and if Pascal comes in and he's healthy and Juan Ruzarrique comes back and takes a step at some point, like, then you haven't missed on those 2nd rounders.
And they're 2nd-year players.
Right. And like,
it's too early to tell.
Pascal has not, like the people I'm making up my mind about right now on the Lions roster are like Jeff Okudah.
Yeah, this is his year to prove what he's worth. I mean, for the most part, to me, I think you get most of your rookie contract to kind of prove
whether you deserve a second contract.
Yeah. And
100%.
That's where you judge those draft classes as not after year 1, not after year 2. You judge that by, are they still on the team and are you offering them a second contract?
Yeah. I'm going to hit up some things in the chat real quick. One Pride, quick question. Was your last comment in any way sarcastic? Because I feel like it was sarcastic.
Well, it doesn't take long to build a football team?
Because it certainly does.
Yeah.
I'm still a big fan of Pascal too, Funky. I think that we are going to see good things out of him in the future, once he actually starts playing football, that's kind of good. Like one of the big reasons why I think the quote unquote rebuild is not done is they drafted Pascal and they knew that he had some kind of nagging injury. They took James Mitchell and they knew that he had an ACL. They took Jameson Williams and they knew that he had an ACL, right? Like those picks are investments as opposed to like, we need you to come in and help us win a lot. So I would agree with One Pride who says, I believe it doesn't take very long. I would agree with him if ... And the ... is, are you taking the right positions? Are you hitting on those positions when you draft somebody? So vis-a-vis the Cincinnati Bengals, the Los Angeles Chargers, these teams are drafting smartly.
Yeah.
Because they hit on rookie quarterbacks. I mean, that's the best asset you can have in football.
And that's exactly it. It's not it can either be quick if you get a couple hits right early, or it can be the Browns or the Lions, right? I mean, where it takes not just a long time, but decades. It really comes down. There's some luck involved too, because last year the Lions had the number 2 overall pick. Gosh, if we had that the year that Burrow came out, it'd be a different story. Instead, there were no quarterbacks and we needed one. So we had to, I don't want to say settle, because you don't settle for a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. But if Joe Burrow was on the board, I would take him over Hutchinson, right? So we just didn't have that opportunity, just because the year that we were just horrendous, there were no quarterbacks that were worth taking, right? So there's a little bit of luck, but I mean, it can be either quick or long, depending on if you're right. The draft is a lotto, and it's really difficult. There's no sure things,
right?
Whether it's an injury thing or whether it's a Tony Mandarich, Jamarcus Russell, where you're like, hey, these guys are sure things, and then they're out of football, and you've wasted the biggest asset that you could have, which is a number 1 overall pick.
Right.
You get your pick of every player in college, and you're like, I want this guy. And if it doesn't work out, you just set your team back 5 years.
So ASIC said something interesting in the chat here. Sorry, Mike.
No, that's all right.
The one criticism I see of this team's drafts is they focus too much on guys who fit the culture. Don't think I agree with that. Does anyone? I think it could be a limiting factor. So here's my concern about it, right? And I would say it's still too early to tell about Brad Holmes' draft class. But like, if it was something like, player X in college. Like, okay, so what's his name? Kayshon Boutte from LSU, the wide receiver. He's like supposed to be the number 1 wide receiver in this upcoming draft class. Like, LSU has a horrible first week of the game, and like he does the quintessential upset football player move, right? He deletes him from his Instagram account, right? Unfollows LSU football on his Instagram account. And so now it's like, is he going to transfer? What's going on? Like, there's clearly some kind of drama surrounding Brian Kelly. Who would have thought?
We need to get him another NIL deal.
That's right. Or whatever. Who knows what it is right now? We don't know what it is. But like, he's a super talented player. And like we fast forward to April, let's say Detroit's picking at 10 or 12 or something like that. And he's on the board, and he's quote unquote fallen down draft boards because of this drama that's happened at LSU. We don't know we probably won't ever really know what it is, right? But the people in the front office, they're supposed to figure that kind of stuff out. And if it's like, we are not going to take you because you don't fit our culture, I don't know that I 100% believe in that. Like, to me, the definition of like, there are some people out there that that's not going to mesh with them, right? But like, I think there are some people that are talented enough that you bring them into that culture and you show them a better way. Yeah. And I think that most professional athletes, if you show them how you're going to make them better, how you're going to help them have success.
What's in it for me? If you can't show it to me, right?
They will get on board. Yeah. And it might take some time, but like, they're rookies.
And I don't think it's as much that they're trying to find players that fit their culture as much as it is they're trying to find players that fit their personality, in that, like, you know what, if a guy's a team captain, that means something. That means he's providing some leadership to the team. He's got some sort of motor. He's got some drive. He's got some desire to be extraordinary.
Yeah, he has qualities that other people follow, right?
And those are difference makers, because if you have 2 people that are essentially the same skill. Sure. One person was a team captain for 4 years and an academic All-American, you know what? And the other person was not. I would take the team captain and the academic American all day, because of all those other intangibles, and you just know that person has the desire to be excellent, and you just don't know on the other guy. Are they going to hit an obstacle and go, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, or I don't want to work that hard? You don't have that question with the captain. You know that guy's going to work his ass off. So I think, and I have no problems with that. I don't mind valuing some of those guys maybe higher than they otherwise would have, just based on skill alone, because it is really the full player that we're getting, right?
Yeah, I don't mind if it's a tiebreaker. Like, but like, to me, talent should be the factor that's winning out here. Like, Detroit has had in the past some amazing players: Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders, even Matthew Stafford and Ndamukong Suh. Yep. Just in the kind of the more recent past, or what have you. But like, haven't been able to capitalize on those guys. And so like, now I think that there is the environment that extremely talented players on this team can thrive in, because they're being supported. Like, they're being supported, like, in the locker room, like we've seen in Hard Knocks. Like, they're being driven to be better, to put the work in. And like, you hear things from, like, you know, DeAndre Swift is working out with other running backs in the offseason. And like, even like Onwuzurike and McNeil showed up in like to camp like in the best shape of their lives. Like, they looked ripped or whatever. And like, maybe some of this is like just crap that goes around on Twitter or whatever. But like, when you see Jeff Okudah and he looks like someone carved him out of marble, and you look at DeAndre Swift and it looks like that someone carved him out of marble, like, it's hard to disagree with the fact that these guys showed up ready to compete. Like in martial arts, I remember like on like some like U.S. Olympic judo team, like they said like, training was the thing that you did so that you could go to practice to get better, right? Like that was something that you were expected to do so that when you showed up, you could give everything to practice to get better at the actual sport. You were responsible for getting better yourself, like when what you can control,
right?
your physical self. So like, and like it seems like that message is getting through. And like I would expect that like next year, it's going to be like some rookie's going to show up like in the best shape of his life, or what have you. And like I think that like it's a good culture. I think it's a culture that's going to support winning, but it's not going to be immediate. You have to add more talent, and so I'm for adding more talent at like certain positions, which I think are important to winning, which is why if you hit on those positions, to One Pride's point, like you can turn around a team more quickly.
Right. So we're getting close to 8. We're going to run over because I think this the next kind of thing that we're going to do here is going to be a lot of fun. So let's talk season predictions.
Sure.
So I'm gonna
let's make that. What happened to my stuff?
Oh, it's there. Trust me.
You better
trust me.
Mike, I thought about this stuff for almost no time at all, so I hope that it's there.
It's there. I'm trying to. There we go. Let's zoom in here. So you guys can see it.
While you're doing this, I'm going to talk to One Pride here real quick. I would say you're right, One Pride, but like I think that Aiden Hutchinson can be a game breaker. I think that Jameson Williams can be a game breaker. And like some of the other guys that are on the team are people that are going to like raise the overall floor of this franchise higher. So like Penei Sewell, I think I don't know that a right tackle can be a quote unquote game breaker, but he can be a pretty good player, right? Like, and like really contribute to winning. So, I think that he's in a position to contribute. Like even Jared Goff, I think, is in a position to really contribute. And like if Jared Goff even gets back to like what I would consider to be like his normal seasons, he's a pretty decent quarterback, right? Like somewhere in that 15 to 20 range. Like you're getting close to a quarterback who's effectively a game manager being able to take what this team is and win. So like, but he's not dynamic, so.
Yeah. All right. So let's do this. Throw some ideas, what your thoughts are in the chat. What we're going to do is we're going to go over Lions, basically the record for each of the teams in the NFC North. And then we'll talk about who our guesses are for division champions. We'll talk about who's going to be playing in the NFC Championship game, and then who comes out of the NFC, blah, blah, blah. Do the same thing the AFC. So what do you guys think on the Lions record? And Drew, don't worry. What I did is I just made the font white, so it blended in. So we'll
camouflage
reveal. Bam!
I see. Oh my God.
See? Gosh. It's good being a tech nerd.
Yeah, fonts and colors.
Fonts and colors, baby. All right, so Drew has 7-10. I've got 9-8, which is interesting because that's less than when we kind of did a season preview earlier. I think we both kind of figured around that 8-9, 9-8. If everything goes right, maybe a 10-7 kind of thing. So, what are you thinking there?
So, what I'm thinking here is this: like, there's a couple of things. Number one, when we did our prediction, like one of the things I realized, and like after we had our interview with Eric Eager, I went back and I kind of thought about some of the things that you and I had talked about, and one of the things that I realized I was doing when I was going through and predicting the record for the season was that I assumed that everybody wasn't going to be hurt.
All things being equal, right?
Week 1 through weeks, 7 game 1 through game 17, like everybody's going to be tip top shape or whatever, or whatever. And like that's not realistic. And so like I've went back and I've looked at some more teams, especially after the cut downs, and I think like teams like Washington, Carolina are going to be more difficult opponents, or are going to be potentially more difficult opponents than I originally gave them credit for. And like it's hard. It's like one of the reasons why I don't like this exercise, Mike. And can you center my column, please?
Yes.
That's really annoying. Thank you. I feel so much better. I think that if the Lions had like the ball bouncing the wrong way kind of stuff, they had that happen to them a lot last year, and they still managed 3 wins, right? But like Baltimore's field goal, like some other late game antic stuff, like some of those could have gone the other way, and that could have been a 5-6 win team pretty easily.
3 losses on the last play of the game.
Yeah. So I mean, there was a bunch of that, and so I would expect this kind of come back to the mean, like regress to the mean, that kind of thing. And so like I have personally said that if this team wins 6 games, I would consider that progress. So like to me, I would be, let's call it rounding up here.
Yeah.
On this, but like if they won 7 games, I would not be upset, right? Like I would think that this would be progress, and so like I think that they are capable of more, but that's kind of like Drew's
win some, lose some. We're gonna win some we might not otherwise, and we're gonna lose some that we probably should have won.
I mean, it's still a young team. It's still a team, like we do know, like we've got, 4 or 5 guys on, short-term IR, whatever it's called. And, like they're going to come back and they have to get up to speed and that kind of stuff. So like, I think that there's some push and pull here on what's going to happen with the season. So like, I'm pretty excited.
All right. Packers.
Yeah.
We both went 11-6.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think they take a step back, but I still think they're the best in the division. And I think they're the best in the division by a considerable margin.
Speaking of considerable margin, probably the next one. Well, we'll just do all of these guys just so we can kind of talk about the differences.
Yeah.
Wow, we were actually pretty close between you and I.
Weird how you and I think alike.
Well, but I mean, yeah, sometimes we're, wildly different.
Yeah, there are certain topics that we're wildly different on. But like to me, the Vikings are the quintessential 500 ball club.
Right.
And the Bears, if they win 3 games, you need to give the MVP award to Justin Fields. I mean, like I'm only like 50% kidding. Like if he scrapes this Bears team to 3 wins on his shoulders, he should be in the MVP conversation. He's not going to get it. But like just to recognize the absolute immensity of that accomplishment as a second-year pro on that field with that roster to get 3 wins, I would be like, hey, if they're going to draft another quarterback, and because the previous regime didn't draft Justin Fields, you make a call.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I would be happy to add Justin Fields to this roster if the Chicago Bears don't want him.
Yeah.
I mean, what else can you really want in a quarterback? Big, mobile, big arm. Put him on a team with a decent O-line and some weapons. Okay, fine. I'll do that. We have those in Detroit.
Yeah.
So,
they're going to be terrible. The Packers are going to end up in the victory seat for the NFC North.
Yep.
So the South, we've got Carolina, we got Atlanta.
We don't see them.
Tampa Bay, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So who do we have? Oh, so I got Tampa Bay. I just think that their overall team is better, and I just don't have any faith in Jameis Winston.
Yep, I agree with all that. And the only reason I put the Saints is because before the season, when Tom Brady was retired, I put a bet down on them on DraftKings to win the division. And I don't know what's going to happen during the season, but like for whatever reason, the Bucs have a problem beating the Saints, and like I don't have a ton of faith in Jameis Winston either. But if what's their wide receiver that missed so much time? Michael Thomas, is that his name? if he's there and Olave's decent and their defense it lives up to like where they should rank or what have you, like, you know, if they steal a game from Tampa Bay and win on a tiebreaker or something, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, yeah. In the East, you've got the Cowboys, the Giants, the Eagles, and the Commanders. And I think the East is probably the second worst division in the NFC.
Oh, I'd say it's the second strongest, but I mean, like, we're nitpicking.
Really?
Yeah. I would put them up against top to bottom. I'd put them up against the South.
And so you think the West with the Niners, Cardinals,
the West
Rams
is the best.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Okay. So I did not actually look at any of yours. So yeah, we both have Philadelphia. So I'm kind of curious.
Eagles.
What the chat thinks about some of these here. What are their predictions? So the
A6 says Rams versus Packers in the NFC title game.
Rams
looks like Luke and one Pride are having a conversation about Rumble's just being positive to everybody. So yeah.
Love it.
Maybe Funky should chime in.
Funky, what do you think?
Yeah, NFC, man. Let us know.
Winners. Rams. That's going to be a tough division. I'm looking forward to those.
I don't think it's going to be as tough as you think it is.
You think the Rams are going to walk through?
I don't know about walk through, but I think they'll comfortably win. So like Seattle's terrible. That end of conversation.
Yeah, that's 2 wins for all 3 teams.
Yeah, like it does. I mean, the question that I have is like, is Arizona's defense going to be terrible? Like, can they figure out their like November slide that they always seem to have under this coaching staff?
Yeah.
I don't know. If they continue to have it, they'll slide back and they'll run on the running. And San Francisco is starting Trey Lance. Is he going to be good, or is he going to look like a rookie? If he looks like a rookie, I don't think that they can really compete. If he looks good, I think they'll challenge the Rams. So
yeah, that makes sense.
See, there he is. Rumble came back with some more positivity. The guy just exudes positivity.
You know me, I'm a sucker for positivity. That's why
everyone loves it,
right?
Yeah, keep it going.
NFC Championship game: LA versus Tampa Bay. LA versus Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
Drew, I should have just told you all of mine so you could do something different. It's not.
I did these first. So you're copying me.
I did mine first, but I colored them white so you couldn't see them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, did you?
I did. Yeah.
So I just think that these are the 2 best teams in the NFC. I think they're 2 of the most complete teams in the NFC. That is more important, Funky. I will give you that. Yeah. So yeah, that's not a problem. You have to tell me which video game though. Is it Fortnite? God. But or what's the other one? Minecraft.
Yep.
I just think these are the 2 best quarterbacks in the division or in the conference. They're the 2 most complete teams in the conference. One of them's probably going to go into the playoffs with the bye. And that would put the other one, I would bet, in the other bracket, quote unquote. And like, I think that they could end up there. And I think the difference is what we're going to see next, because I have an idea this is going to be different though.
I do want to ask a clarifying question here. You did just say that those 2 teams had the 2 best quarterbacks in the conference.
Yeah.
Are you putting Stafford ahead of Rodgers then?
Yeah, I am right now.
Right on.
Like heading into this year, I believe that Matthew Stafford will have a higher PFFF grade and his team will get further in the playoffs than Aaron Rodgers' team.
Excellent.
And I hate Aaron Rodgers. I hate everything about him.
Yeah, so you think Brady's going to get there then? With I mean, all this is assuming health, right?
It's like every other year for Tom Brady for a decade. So I mean, like he didn't win it last year. Math would show that like he's going to get one this year, you know. And so
really
I don't
hard
know.
To repeat.
I mean, it's really tough, right? I mean, so the Rams are going to get everybody's best shot all season.
Yep.
I think that
the number 1 hardest schedule.
Yep. And like, I just think that, I think that it's just going to be a little less pressure than the Bucs are normally used to. They're not off to a great start. They lost 3, like 3 people since the end of last season on the interior of their offensive line. So Brady's going to have to kind of work around that, a little bit. So it could be a determining factor, but they are just stacked on both sides of the ball. And for 2 years have just been drafting for depth and development. And I just think that it's going to pay
all
off.
Of them.
I know, it's ridiculous. I mean,
and I feel like as I'm picking these, and I'm like, I swear to God, it's not just because I'm a Stafford fan, right? And I think that they're just going to do it. I don't think that the Buccaneers will be able to beat them. But it'll be a great game. That'll be a fun game to watch. So moving on to the AFC. So the North, we got the Ravens, the Steelers, the Browns, and the Bengals. I think that's going to be a really tough division.
Yeah. I think that Pittsburgh will be worse than everybody predicts. So
I think so too. I think Burrow and Chase are just going to be too much for.
It's overwhelming. Those two guys are overwhelming.
Yeah. And I don't believe in Lamar Jackson yet. I just don't. I do. He's not a Jamarcus Russell by any means, but I just don't think.
Well, he's going to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL probably by season's end. So
yeah, that's probably true.
So he brings a dynamic. I mean, Jamarcus Russell was nowhere near an MVP, and
no,
Lamar Jackson has one. So
I'm just saying he's not terrible.
Yeah, he's not terrible. Yeah.
I think he's closer to Kirk Cousins than Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or those kind of that group of players.
Yeah, I would push back pretty hard on that one. So the Ravens' problem last year was that they were amazingly injured, just like the Lions were.
Yeah.
And they still managed to go 500, and so this year they have a lot of those guys back.
The defense will help.
And they added another draft class. They picked up good players in the draft, like Isaiah Likely, or looks like a really good target. Mark Andrews was, led the team in the league in touchdowns and receiving yards at the tight end position last year. He's still there. I don't think that the absence of Marquise Brown isn't going to phase anybody. So I'm a little higher on the Ravens, but I think Cincinnati's right there with them. I think the Deshaun Watson suspension really hurts Cleveland's chances, and I just think that Pittsburgh is less talented.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely going to come down to those two, I think. The Burrow Chase combination, I think, it's
really, really good.
Puts them over the top for me, but I think those games are going to be so much fun to watch. AFC South, less interesting. You got the Texans, who are terrible. You got the Jaguars, who are terrible. You've got the Titans. There
are people saying the Jags could sneak in as a wild card.
Oh, Jesus
Christ. I'm like, no, that is ridiculous.
No. And then you got the Titans and the Colts. So it really comes down to the Titans and Colts.
So hang on. Before we go any further, A6 has asked a question here. Did the Cincinnati do anything to upgrade their line? They made huge upgrades. So they added basically 4 new starters. They drafted a kid who popped, who's going to be their left guard. And they went out and they signed none of these names are going to blow anybody away, but Ted Karras, La'el Collins, they went from a bad line to an average line to even potentially a pretty good one. And they did it cheap and they did it quick. And they spent their draft capital on the defensive side of the ball. They added Arnold Ebiketie as a pass rusher, Dax Hill as a defensive back. I think that they're going to be even better than they were last year. And they went to the Super Bowl last year, but it's pretty good. I think that I think Cincinnati's the real deal.
Yeah, totally agree. South, Titans, Colts is really what it comes down to. We both have Indy. Do you think Matt Ryan's going to just take a big jump, or is he just going to be a really good quarterback at the end of his career, and that's all they needed to get over into the playoffs?
It's the latter. So of the quarterback that they have had recently, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, since Andrew Luck retired, basically, I like Matt Ryan the best of all of those guys.
They were a choking final game away from the playoffs last year, right?
I bet on the Jaguars, and they came through for me, and I won so much money on that game because, and the only reason I bet it was that the only chance that the Lions had to get the number 1 pick was that Jacksonville had to win and Detroit had to lose in the last game of the season. And then Detroit went and fucked it up. Now, luckily, hey, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Welcome. Luckily, we got the number 1 player in the draft at number 2 anyways. Thank you, Jacksonville. So pretty excited about that.
AFC East, the Jets, the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Patriots.
This is not close. This is not close.
Well, true, but I think it's really the second place battle is going to be really interesting because I think the Patriots, the Dolphins are both able to compete for that second place. And maybe the Jets.
No, not the Jets. The Jets are in the running for the number 1 overall pick.
You think they're gonna? I don't think they're gonna be that bad.
Look at their schedule. Look at their schedule at some point, and take a look at their roster before you do it, and then tell me at what point in the season they're favored to win a game. Because it's not until week 10, as far as I can calculate it.
Okay, yeah, I did not look at their schedule.
It sucks. It is awful. I mean, like. I don't think they're gonna. Yeah, I think there are people going to be getting fired at the end of the season. So
it very well could be. And then we're going to get to the best division in football with the Raiders, the Broncos, the Chiefs.
By far the best division in football.
So you got the Raiders, Broncos, Chiefs, and Chargers. ESPN, Bart Scott.
I hate it. I cannot stand Bart Scott.
I don't know much about him. I just did notice that he picked the Chiefs to not make the playoffs this year.
Like, as far as I'm concerned, like ESPN hands these guys like their index card of what they're supposed to think right before they go on the air.
Yeah.
Like, if you think that the Chiefs, who have been to 4 straight AFC championship games and been to the Super Bowl twice and won one in the last 4 years, are going to miss the playoffs, it's because Patrick Mahomes got hurt, not because they're a bad team. That's ridiculous. Trading Tyreek Hill does not take that team from an AFC championship game contender to missing the playoffs. Sorry.
Right. But does the steps that the Chargers take to get better and the Raiders, getting Devontae Adams and the steps that they make, and then the Broncos getting
the Broncos.
Is the combination of that enough to go, you know what, you didn't make the playoffs. There's too many, somebody has to not make the playoffs. Who's it going to be?
And it's the Broncos and the Raiders who are going to miss the playoffs. It's not the Chargers and the Chiefs. Like, the lowest common denominator is who has the best quarterback. And the Chiefs and the Chargers have better quarterbacks. So I love the Chargers. I really want them to. I really would love it if this was their year. I have some cousins in Chicago who were born in San Diego and then moved to Chicago. So, like, the Chargers are their team, and I would love it if they had an opportunity. But, like, they have a quarterback on a rookie deal. They have great wide receivers. They have added the number one corner on the market in free agency. They traded for an absolute stud of a pass rusher. They're pairing him with their other even better pass rusher. They shored up things on their offensive line in the draft. They shored up things on their defensive line and through free agency. They've added veterans throughout the levels of their defense. Derwin James is back, and he's going to be focused on football because he's now the highest paid safety in football. Like, there is nothing about this team that makes me think that they can't be successful. Like, every arrow is pointing up in every facet of this team. Like, it's if this is not their year, it's a real bummer because they are all in.
Chargers,
all in.
Yeah. I agree. I think they're going to win the division. I didn't really put a ton of thought into who's the other team that's making the playoffs, or are they going to be a division with 3, kind of like the NFC West was with the Niners, the Rams, and the Cardinals all making it last year? I think it's going to be, right? I think
the Broncos are a paper tiger, man. And the Broncos are a paper tiger, and, like, I don't think the Raiders have, like, the foundation to be good. Like, they are going to have to. So you go up against the Chiefs twice, you go up against the Broncos twice, you go up against the Chargers twice. So that's Bosa and Mac twice. Yep. That's, Karl Loftus and Chris Jones twice. That's Bradley Chubb, and I don't know who else they've got there, but like the defense of the Broncos is their calling card.
Right.
So like you're going up against that twice. Like, I mean, like that could easily be 6 losses, which means you have to, like in the AFC, you basically have to win every non-conference game.
Non-division game.
Non-division game in order to make the playoffs, probably on a tiebreaker. So like there's no way. I mean, like I would bet my house that the Raiders don't make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, they're the ones that I think are going to be out. And I'm kind of trying to decide if I think Denver's going to squeak in with probably a tiebreaker of some sort, or if they're just going to be also out because, like you said, dog eats dog, right? They're going to be beating each other. None of those guys are getting out unscathed.
Sure.
So they're all beating. It's like the Big Ten, right? Like they always just beat each other up, so they could never go undefeated to win a national championship because they were just too good for so many years.
Yeah, Ohio State's usually doing the beating up, but which is a real bummer. Fair. Yeah, but yeah, no, like if they cannibalize each other's wins, it could shake things up in the conference. But yeah, I don't think that the Raiders and the Broncos are good enough to really challenge the elite in the conference.
All right. Buffalo Chargers is who I've got as well.
Yep.
AFC champion, who's coming out? You got Buffalo. I got LAC. I think the Chargers are gonna do it. I just, oh man, it's gonna be a good game to watch though.
Yeah.
And then Super Bowl winner, you've got Buffalo over the Bucks, and I've got an all LA. God, that would have been a great one to have last year in SoFi.
I know, right?
Nuts. But I do actually think that the Chargers will probably pull it out. Although I don't know. Like at the same time, if LA gets there, I just don't know if I could bet against Aaron Donald and Matt Stafford. Like I just think those two guys and Kupp and Ramsey, like just that group of 4, you can't stop them. So
that's a lot of firepower.
There's a lot of just desire to not accept losing. They'll do anything to win kind of thing. So it was really difficult. I did end up picking the Chargers, but it was really hard for me to pick them over the Rams because but it's so hard to win back to back. That's the only thing that kind of made the difference. All right. So MVP.
Oh, A6. Don't forget Wagner.
Yeah, that's true.
He's got a championship pedigree on his resume too.
I've got if the Chargers are doing that well, winning the division, I've got Herbert there, and for the same reason you got Allen, right?
Yeah, same thing. Yep.
And offensive player of the year, I don't think a guy like Cooper Kupp is going to have another one of those special seasons, and it's usually the same as the MVP.
Sure.
So,
the only reason I picked anybody other than Josh Allen was just because I hate it. That it's like the same thing, you know. Yeah. So,
defensive player of the year, yeah, it's got to be
right.
Like he's the most dominant player.
It's like we're gonna vote for somebody who isn't LeBron James this time for the NBA MVP, like when he was at his height.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, well, Donald's still at his height. I mean, like, there's every argument in the world that he should be a 6-time in a row defensive player of the year. So we'll see. Probably get another one.
All right. Offensive rookie there. This is what I'm kind of curious about. Drake London. I like it. He was one of my top 3. I did go with Sky Moore, though, only because I think, I was looking at some of the top wide receiver, because I think it's almost got to be a wide receiver. It's probably not going to be a running back. So I was kind of looking at some of those wide receivers, and I'm like, okay, well, they're on a shitty team. Oh, he's on a shitty team. Yep, he's on a shitty team. And I'm like, well, Sky Moore he's playing with Patrick Mahomes. There's an opening now with Tyreek Hill getting shipped off leaving for Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got a real opportunity on a really good team to put up some numbers. So that was kind of why I picked him. What was your thoughts on Drake London?
Volume. He's, first of all, like the only reason I would move away from your pick is that like there is enough there are enough other people there for Mahomes to spread around the ball to, that like Sky Moore would have to become the clear-cut option to put up the kind of stats that would win an award like this. And some people in the chat are saying Olave from the Saints. So yeah, that he could. I think that he's going to be the distraction for Michael Thomas, but
he was in my top 3 with London and Moore.
Sure. But I just think Drake London on a bad team is going to get such a high volume of targets and like jump balls in the red zone that even if he doesn't convert many of them, if you just look at a stat line at the end of the season, he's going to have, I mean, there's every chance he gets like 1,000 yards receiving and double-digit touchdowns. So
yeah,
if he does that, I think that the fact that he's on the Falcons can hurt his case. But like, also I think that if it's like, oh, you put up those stats on the Falcons, like, and you just emphasize shit differently, like
right.
he has a good chance. And like, he was like the number 8 pick, and usually like higher draft picks get this kind of thing. So
yeah,
I think we'll probably agree on this next one though.
I'm sure we will. That's why I saved it for last. But I was also thinking maybe Garrett Wilson for the Jets. But again, I'm like, I just don't know.
Who's throwing him the ball?
Well, I mean, somebody's got to. They're going to have to throw the ball to somebody. And they don't really have much.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather bet on Marcus Mariota throwing to Drake London than I would any Jets quarterback throwing to Garrett Wilson. I mean, but like, there is a future out there where he is in the running.
What about
he's really good?
With the Titans.
Who?
Treylon Burks with the Titans.
I don't know. He can play a full game at this point. Like, I mean, like he's over there getting oxygen on the sidelines. Like, I've heard that they are out on him. I mean, I think that there's.
I think they made a mistake, and
he made a couple really impressive catches in camp, but like I'm gonna need before I'm gonna pass judgment on Treylon Burks. Like I want to see a season or two, but like it doesn't look good thus far.
What about Christian Watson in Green Bay?
Stop it. So Christian Watson played for an FCS school that didn't throw the ball and had the highest drop rate of any wide receiver in the first round or any wide receiver in the class last year, I think. So like, oh, you didn't get the ball much, and when you got thrown the ball, you dropped it at a pretty good clip. Like, if there's a receiver in that class on Green Bay, it's Dobbs.
Yeah.
So I mean, like,
there's no quarterbacks that are actually going to start, right? Because like, Corral's not starting, Desmond Ritter's not starting.
He's the only one that's got a chance.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think if Trubisky just completely bumblefucks his way through, he may be out in a few games, and Pickett might be able to get a go.
Okay, so those guys play on different teams. So you mean Willis?
Yes. Yeah. I'm like, wait, what? Yes.
And like Vrabel in the preseason had some statement that was like, we need Malik Willis to stay in the pocket and throw the ball.
Right.
You know, and so like, yeah. You know, and so like to me, he is what we saw at Liberty, which is that he is a running back who can throw the ball. And I don't think
working for Baltimore.
So like you say, I know that you say that, but like anyone who says that Lamar Jackson is a run first quarterback doesn't understand like what Lamar Jackson is.
I'm kidding. Because that's the knock, right?
I know, right? I know. But like Malik Willis is so far away from being able to play the position of a quarterback that I don't even think it's funny. I think it's sad. You know, and so like I don't think there's any chance they're pulling their $30 million plus quarterback for the guy that used to play for Liberty. I just cannot see it.
Let's see.
Oh my God. Weird.
You picked Aiden Hutchinson.
I know. So shocking.
What a homer.
So, you know, and that's a legit criticism, right? But like,
no, it's not. He's just that good.
I think that he's pretty good. And like, I think that he is in a better position than someone like Kayvon Thibodeau is in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot see a linebacker winning this award. I cannot see a defensive back winning this award. This is gonna go to somebody who's gonna rack up sacks, or whatever. And like, all honestly, he has to do is be better than the other rookie edge rushers.
Yeah, and the thing that's going to help him, I think, is actually, and it's weird to say this out loud and actually mean it, being on the Lions.
Right.
Because he gets the hard knocks press. Because, I mean, let's be real. All of these things are popularity contests to some extent, right? So you get guys out there that have MVP seasons and they're not. But why? Because their name isn't Breeze, Manning, Brady, or Rodgers. Right. So because it is a popularity contest to some extent, having Hard Knocks feature you, that can't hurt, right?
I would think that he gets a little bit of a lead heading into this season on the narrative, right? Yep. Like that matters. You're right. It matters.
Yep. And with the Lions improving, and we almost have to improve, right? So barring injury and everything else, like we're going to be doing better, and we will be a national conversation in that we are. The Lions are improving. They won 7 games this year, over doubled their win rate or whatever, and I think that's going to help him. So I think even outside of the fact that he's probably just the best defensive player in the rookie class, I think all those things just kind of team up to help him win.
Yeah, I really think that like the thing that's going to probably put it over the top for me is that he's going to he'll have a batted ball here, and he'll have a fumble recovery there, and he'll generate holding calls, and like you will see him make an impact on the game outside of just getting flashy plays.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty good. A6 in the chat says, what is the Lions fans' infatuation with athletic QBs? They add more than non-athletic QBs. Like, think about that. Like, here, I want to choose between these two players. I want the athletic version of this.
Yeah. Do you want
player
Josh
or the
Allen?
Unathletic version of this player?
Yeah. Do you want Josh Allen, or do you want, I don't know. Like I'm not.
I mean, so like let's use Drew Brees, right? Because he's retired or whatever.
Yeah.
And like the guys that fit that mold, the Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, and Matt's not immobile by any stretch of the imagination. But like the thing that they do well is that they move well in the pocket.
Right.
But they're not a threat to hurt you with the running game. Matthew Stafford did fine in that, and he scrambled for more than his fair share of first downs or whatever. But like Josh Allen hurts you in the running game. You have to account for Josh Allen in the running game. Like you have to account for.
You have to spend one of your defensive players
yes.
watching him, right?
Right, exactly. Like one of the big things that Lamar Jackson does that he brings to the table is that it's that same type of thing. Like you now have to account for that player in a way that you otherwise did not have to. Right. And so like with the NFL moving more and more toward these matchup offensive systems, if anything that you can do with your scheme or with your talent in order to like basically saying like we're playing 11 on 10 because now you have to dedicate a player on your side to this thing that I can do, gives you an advantage. And like I am not going to recommend that the Lions not look at a Will Levis or like we'll see how the season goes or an Anthony Richardson from Florida when they can go out there and literally beat you with their legs in addition to their arms.
Yeah. So
like we're going into Philadelphia, or Philadelphia's coming to Detroit, this Sunday, right? And is it this Sunday, Mike?
Sunday. Yep.
And so like one of the big reasons why I'm going to bet on Philly to win the game is that their quarterback is more dynamic than ours. And he can hurt you in ways that Jared Goff cannot hurt them. So it's not that I like that or I'm happy about that or anything close to, But like I would rather have Jalen Hurts on the Lions than Jared Goff because I'm getting a player that can do roughly the same thing for a 30th of the price.
Yeah, and run.
So I mean, like, is Jalen Hurts a proven NFL commodity in the way that Jared Goff is? No, he's not. Can he do things that make him a bigger threat to every team that they play each week? Yep, sure can.
Yeah.
So I would rather have that. That's why I'm infatuated with athletic quarterbacks.
All right. We are at the 90-minute mark. So we went over a bit, but it was fun. I enjoyed doing the preseason predictions. And then once we get toward the end of the season, we'll do a recap because I'm going to save that file. So,
that's great.
So yeah, obviously we do this every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. So come one, come all. The whole like, comment, subscribe thing. We're up to, I think, 34 subs now. So we're getting closer to Drew getting a hat. So spread the word.
I would love to be able to go into the draft next season with a different hat. So we'll see what happens.
Right on. Or even trade deadline day, because that's going to be a holiday for us, right?
Yes. I love that stuff. So.
So throw us an email, casualgmpodcast@gmail.com. Post questions or comments on the YouTube streams. And if you have anything that you want us to talk about during the I was going to say school year because I work for schools, but the calendar, the season, good Lord, I'm struggling today, Drew.
You are struggling. That's all right. We're at the end. You're doing fine.
I'm struggling.
It's okay.
So
I'm driving the struggle bus, so I'll help you out, buddy.
Right on. Well, I appreciate everybody joining in. Hard Knocks. Is this the last episode? Or we got one more?
Is.
Last episode of Hard Knocks.
Episode 5. We're finally cutting people.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Looking forward to it.
Yep.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining.
Night, guys.
All right. See you, Drew.
See you, Mike.
All right. Bye.